Good morning, everybody. Day 3 or 4 of our weekend extravaganza. So usually when people come to visit me on Vancouver Island, we always end up at Triple Falls because it's quite close to the house. And actually I have been here a number of times in the fall, and sometimes it can look really good. So if you're not familiar with Triple Falls, I've done a number of videos on the location. I usually come down here when I'm reviewing filters. But there should be some good water flow today, and hopefully some of the maples around the falls have changed colour. But we'll see how it goes. Now then, I think this is the trail. The trails have changed around here because the old trail went through some private property, and the folk in the house were not happy about that, and they let that known to me. They wanted me to take it was one of my first videos, wanted me to take the video down because I walked through their property. Anyway, since then there's a new trail, so right, it's quite beautiful in here, isn't it?
Nice this morning.
There's some nice fall colour, so this might be good. Wow, this is really pretty. I'm really glad that we came down here. Perfect conditions this morning. So this is the lower falls, and I've left Brian up at the upper falls so we're not getting in each other's way. Now, our first instinct with a lot of images or scenes like this is just to go straight for the waterfall and photograph that as a primary subject. And that's what I usually do when I first hit an area, but then after I've spent some time in that area, it's nice to try and get something a little bit different. So what I'll often do is look for something to frame the main subject. And as a good example, here's an image that I took several years ago now that I really love, because it has some really great framing in there, and even though the waterfall is somewhat the primary subject, I've tried to frame it in a way that I don't know, it's just something a little bit different. So I'd like to do something like that. Now, the tree that I used for that framing has since been, or the branches have since been washed away. There's a few there, but it's not going to quite work. So what I might do is try to use these bracken ferns as some kind of framing. There's also all of these shrubs around here that might work quite nicely. I could place this tree in here, this big leaf maple, but it doesn't really have an awful lot of character to it, so I'm not sure if I'll use that or not. Absolutely love the autumn colour, and down here there's some beautiful autumn colour, but I think it's too far from the waterfall to kind of integrate it into the composition. I'll have to go over there and have a look, see, maybe it might work. Actually, where I'm standing right now is really quite nice, with the bracken fern and then the sweeping line of this big leaf maple with the fall colour. So a pano might work, or some way of integrating these so that they frame the waterfall in the background. All right, found the composition. Now then, I'm using the widest lens I have, which is a 23mm on the medium format, which I think it comes down to about 18mm. I'm very close to this fern in the foreground, plus it's moving a little bit, so I'm definitely going to have to focus stack this one. And also the light is changing really fast. Looks like the sun's going to come out, so I might only be able to get this one shot. But I have this fern in the foreground with some full colour, and then these two ferns on the outside kind of frame the waterfall, and then I have a bit of the full colour in the background. It's a really pretty scene, actually. I might have to do a couple of other exposures too for the flow of the water, because we have wind in the foreground. If I have a long shutter speed, then everything's just going to be moving. So it is going to be a bit of a Photoshop Lightroom job, but I think it'll turn out pretty good. It looks pretty good on the back of the camera. Just as a comparison, I decided to take some images with and without a polarizer just to show you the differences. And as you can see, with the polarizer, the colors are much more saturated, and without, there's a slight blue cast, and you can see there's quite a bit of sheen, not only in the rocks and the moss in the background, but also the ferns in the foreground. Right, I was just about to call it for the day because the light had pretty much disappeared. We were getting a lot of hot spots, but as luck would have it, the clouds have moved in a little bit, so the light is quite a bit more subdued, and of course now the colors are popping and we're not getting any of those specular highlights ruining our shots. So I decided to come down river a little bit. I've never actually photographed the waterfall from this angle before, and I think from this angle, if you really want to portray a subject in its environment rather than just the subject itself, if that makes sense, then you can back off. And the nice thing about backing off here is that now I'm including more of the full foliage in the trees and not getting the sky in the background. Now the river itself is not terribly interesting, so what I've decided to do is once again try another pano. I'm just including a little bit of the river, the waterfall, and then of course quite a bit of the full foliage. And I'm actually going as wide as including some of the cedar here and some of the foliage on the side here. I think it'll work. It might be to my benefit to get a little bit closer and then use a slightly longer focal length and just zoom in a bit and perhaps do something more of a square crop or 4x5 or something like that. That might work as well. So we'll start off with this. Again, I'm using a polarizer to saturate some of those colors. And from this distance, I have half a second at f16, ISO 400. There isn't really any movement, and the waterfall is so far that the shutter speed, I don't think it matters too much, but we'll soon find out. Just take a shot, and if you don't like it, then try a different shutter speed. Yeah, I think that works really well. And of course, the waterfall is quite bright, so your eye goes straight to that, and then it looks around, or hopefully looks around what's surrounding that waterfall. Wow, this is a lovely little scene. So I've come to the upper falls of Triple Falls, and I have photographed this falls a lot over the years, so it's sometimes difficult to come up with something a little bit different. But what I've done is I've come up to the upper tier. There's two tiers here, and just walked along the edge here to this section here, and I found all these leaves just sitting on this little shelf here. So what I decided to do is have those in the foreground, and then the falls in the midground, and then of course then we got the tree or the big leaf maple in the background with some full color. It's a really pretty scene. I think it might work. Unfortunately, the waterfall is kind of at a bit of a strange angle. I'm at the side of it and not straight on, so the foreground goes right across the frame, but the waterfall only kind of goes half of the frame. I guess I could try and perhaps go over to my right a little bit more, but I think I'd lose kind of some of those full leaves here. I will have to focus stack this though. Right now I'm at about 40 millimeters, and because I'm such a low angle, it's really difficult to get everything sharp from foreground to background. So I'll have to focus stack it once again. And also I'm using a polarizer again, because without the polarizer it just looks all washed out. Yeah, nice little scene. Quite happy with it. Okay, the light seems to be holding off. The clouds move in every now and then. I've succumbed to what I did last year. I mean, it's such a beautiful scene that I can't resist. So what I'm doing right now is, in the foreground here, there are lots of bubbles and leaves swirling around. Here we go. And what I've decided to do is put on a wide angle lens, and I'm using a 6-stop ND filter with a built-in polarizer made by Case Filters, and I'm able to get a shutter speed of 13 seconds, and that's enough to show the leaves swirling in the foreground. It's really quite neat, and of course they're in a bit of an eddy, so they're causing this circular motion. And yeah, it's pretty cool. You know what? I have these muck boots, and I have a hole in them. This is the second pair that I've had holes in. So I'm not a happy camper right now. My feet are soaking wet. I thought at first it was perhaps when I was splashing, I was getting water coming into the top of them, but I think they actually have a hole in them. Blasted. Right, that's it for me today. Beautiful conditions at Triple Falls today. Couldn't have asked for better. I think today was better than yesterday actually. I finally got some images that are a little bit different than what I usually take. Full color is perfect. It's not too windy. So yeah, all in all, a great photographic session. Brian's still behind the camera there taking photographs, but I think I'm done for the day. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and as always, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I'm not sure what I'll be doing next week, but stay tuned for the next video, hopefully next week. Until then, bye bye.